the Muskegon Channel. It's Andy O'Reilly, and what a I mean, dude, how do you beat this?
It's lovely.
I'm down in Bluffton here with Ben Evans, and this is one of those stories that we're going to take a look at both sides of the story. You know, most of the time here on the Muskegon Channel and Positively Muskegon, we try to focus on the stuff that, you know, makes things click and makes people kind of shine here in Muskegon. But every now and again, we get some people button heads, and it's over issues and things like that. So instead of trying to be all controversial like we talked on the phone, we're going to give a chance to talk to each side of the story. Ben here is going to talk about the Bluffton neighborhood and this docks project. Take me back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the history of this project that's getting worked on. It's just right over the hill here.
It is.
Okay.
As I understand it, about two and a half years ago, dune land owned by Sand Products. There's 83 acres back there. They proposed a PUD, a housing development back there.
PUD, what's that stand for?
Planned Unit Development.
Okay, all right.
And they initially wanted to build 400 houses, upscale homes they called it, on 83 acres of land between Harbortown and Edgewater, and behind where Bluffton School was there.
Okay, yeah.
And this is dune land that, though Sand Products has owned it, it's been open to the public. People walk their dogs. There's a thriving natural habitat back there, wetlands, deer, owl. It's quite beautiful, and it's the last remaining natural dune habitat on Muskegon Lake.
Okay.
And so we have a small and really open, neat community here in Bluffton Beechwood, and introducing 400, and now that's been whittled down to 200 plus new homes in such a small space of land is going to dramatically affect the culture and our day-to-day lives.
Sure.
And not to mention, you know, having the sound of heavy machinery back there throughout the next couple of years. And so, obviously, those who live in close proximity to the dune land are unhappy about that. But beyond that, there's questions of safety that this project raises that we don't feel have been addressed by the City Commission, who is in the position to approve or deny this development.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of a whole bunch of different things. I mean, the preservation of these dune lands comes into it. You know, Bluffton and in this area, it's a tight, and when I say tight community, I don't necessarily mean tight neighborly. I mean, that's a good thing that you guys all have going down here, your closest neighbors and friends, but it's also pretty packed in.
It is very packed in.
And to add another couple hundred houses to that brings up some of the concerns.
It does, and there have been several meetings. There was a big meeting at Muskegon High School with about 250 concerned citizens from this area in the auditorium raising concerns to the commission. And we want a traffic study, both boat and car, to see how dramatically this is going to affect, you know, our day-to-day existence in these neighborhoods.
Sure.
And more than that, I think a traffic study just represents due diligence.
Yeah.
You know, how much is flow going to increase with these 200 plus homes? The city, you know, really, Andy, I feel as if we haven't been heard. I feel we send a small delegation to every commission meeting, every planning commission meeting, and there's been mass outcry at meetings like the Muskegon High School meeting, and I don't feel as if our concerns are being registered. Of course we want to protect the dune land, of course we don't want the noise back there, but you know, issue number one is the safety concern.
Sure.
And in addition to not having those traffic studies, conducting those traffic studies, they intend with this development to dredge another channel into Muskegon Lake back into those dune lands. And I can speak from experience. I live right down there in Edgewater half the time, and as does my entire family. And a modest rain comes, Andy, and that street is flooded.
Yeah.
You can go down, it's flooded to the point where it looks like a natural disaster has occurred. So to even meddle with the water table or the water levels just seems very irresponsible to me, and I'd like to see some assurance that due diligence has been taken and that we're all safe first. Right. That's number one.
Sure.
There's always going to be environmental concerns. But I feel, and I told you this off camera, that business and financial interests are taking precedence over our concerns, the citizens' concerns. And we are the existing citizens. We are the ones who are paying the taxes. We are the ones who are here, have been here. And my dad would always say, take care of your own, take care of your own. And so I expect the city commission to look out for me as an existing citizen, more so than they would by potential citizens, or businesses. And it's been immensely frustrating. And I think once you build back there, you can't unbuild.
Right.
You don't get those dunes back.
Right.
You don't get them back. And so if we are going to do that, if we are going to make that move, then every measure should be taken to assure us and to be confident that it is safe, that it is worthwhile financially. There's a recent article, what's in the Times? I can't remember, that basically suggests that for every dollar in tax revenue, new housing developments in middle class to upper middle class area, the city pays $1.19 for public services to. So there's actually, this is being called, a move by the city for increased tax revenue, when in fact there are some indications that we'll actually be paying more for this.
Yeah.
So
Devil's advocate now.
Yeah.
You've got the neighbors here, you've got everybody that's concerned, everything like that. But the owners of that land, they're also neighbors and taxpayers and everything else too. How does that factor into the argument in your mind?
No, there was an editorial written by Carolyn Blake, and I couldn't agree with it more. I think, just because something is the letter of the law, doesn't mean one has an obligation to do it. In fact, in a case like this, I think the ethical thing is to leave the land in place. And now when you say neighbors, this is a business, this is a corporation,
Sure.
This is a money-making entity. My mom, my neighbor, Jim, the dentist, that we're just citizens.
Yep.
We're private citizens.
Yep,
This is a money-making entity, and they have an opportunity to, as I said, just because something can happen doesn't mean it needs to.
Right.
So in this case, I would hope, they'd step back and say, you know what, we don't need 200 plus homes. No one's clamoring for these 200 plus homes. Let's leave it as it is. But it's a quest for money. And so but if you're asking if I feel neighborly towards a big business whose concern is making money as opposed to kindness, goodness, and ethics, I don't.
No.
I have no sympathy for them.
Right.
I think this area is developed enough. It is crowded, and I don't think any of them are starving. If they need money, they can come to me, and I'll certainly outfit them with meals and even shelter. I've got a spare room in here. So,
Well, what I wouldn't get at that with that question, but what I'm getting at is from a governmental perspective.
right.
You have to balance the citizens and the businesses of a community.
I agree. I
know?
agree, Andy. But when is enough enough?
Right.
That's my question.
Sure.
It's amazing things have happened downtown.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and that is downtown. That is where you put development. That is where you put new restaurants. That is where you put vibrant cultural stuff. But we have enough here.
Okay.
There is enough, and this is basically a remnant, a very last remnant of Duneland around Muskegon Lake. So why are we going to cram more stuff into it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
I just don't see the sense in it. But from I know there's somebody from the city commission who's going to be speaking to the
Well, we're going
project
to talk to
as well.
Lachelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, that's some of my concerns are with sand products. In fact, the majority of them. What I'm asking the commission to do is to do the utmost due diligence, because, they've responded to me when I've spoken to them. They have said, well, it's their land. Certainly, it's their land. It's Sand Products land, but you have great power as a city commissioner. You can require them to do the necessary research, to fund the necessary research, to ensure that this development is safe and viable for the existing tax-paying residents in the area.
Right.
And nobody seems to have heard us on that. And it's been I've been pretty crestfallen. you know, and there's a lot of talk, but very little action. So it's been frustrating, and you know, we're gonna lose 83 acres of dune land, and this place is gonna get more congested and crowded, and maybe 10-15 years in the future, Andy, we're gonna have that, oh, should have had a V8 moment.
Yeah.
Wish we'd had more foresight. Wish we'd looked into this when, you know, people's basements are already flooding in Edgewater and around Edgewater all the time. And too often we do that. It seems as if we can never learn from history, and that we're unable to have the necessary foresight to act in a responsible manner in the present. And that's all I'm asking in this case, is that we are responsible, and all our residents are asking here in these neighborhoods, is that we're responsible enough to weigh to the best of our abilities every consequence of this 200 home development of upscale homes.
Sure.
And it's not as if this is helping the citizens of Muskegon. These are going to be very expensive homes. You know, if there's we're going to have a lot of people from likely Chicago and other areas coming to live here. These are not help your own, you know, help your own, and it's frustrating. So.
I get it. I do. Any final words?
No, I really appreciate what you do, and
Sure.
for giving us the time to kind of voice our opinions, and I hope people find the time to watch this, and that they'll attend the vote, final approval hearing at the City Commission, which is June 13th. And if you have something to say on the issue, I'd urge you to come say it there, because it's open for public comment.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right.
We're behind there running the cameras. We're behind that little wall back there running the cameras on those things. So
all right.
we'll look forward to June 13th.
All right.
Next up is Lachelle from the city. We're going to talk to her and find out a little bit about the city's perspective and what's going on. And like I told you before we rolled the camera, sometimes things are going on you just don't find out about. So let's see what Lachelle has to say about the project coming up down here with the dunes and it's the docks, right?
The docks.
The docks project.
The docks.
Lachelle's up next right here on the Muskegon Channel. Welcome back to the Muskegon Channel. It's Andy O'Reilly, and today I'm down with Leanne Mikesell. We are in the City Commission chambers of the City of Muskegon. Thank you for taking a few minutes to come down and talk. This is one of those conversations that we like to try and take a little different spin on than the traditional news agencies do. We're talking about the docks. It's a proposed project down in the what's the neighborhood?
Bluffton.
See, you know.
I do.
That was a quiz. I told you I was going to put you on the spot.
Great.
Right? The Bluffton neighborhood, they're worried about this big project, this big housing development. We talked to Ben there a couple of minutes ago and heard some of their concerns, but Leanne has agreed from the city to come in and talk a little bit about the city side of things and the potential benefits that this big project that we could all benefit from, right?
Right.
There's a lot of benefits to be had from this project. So start with this from the global perspective. What are we looking at as a city if this project comes through?
Well, actually, you know, we lost a lot of population over the years, and you know, this is an opportunity to gain some of that back. The area of land happens to be between a couple of established neighborhoods, all within Bluffton. So it's an opportunity to add some housing. It's actually a little bit of a mixed-use development too, so there's some proposal for some entertainment.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
as well. And so, you know, that's another nice place for people in the city to visit, tourists to visit.
Some of the concerns, as you haven't seen the video yet, but you know you will when we run the thing. Some of the concerns brought up were, you know, traffic and boats, and I mean Bluffton's really kind of a small little packed-in neighborhood as it stands already, and then some of the neighbors too are kind of worried about that dune property that's there left on Muskegon Lake. It's private property though, as we were talking before the camera came on a little bit. So talk a little bit about that factor, and with, you know, the changing dynamics to a neighborhood that could happen like that.
Sure. Well, the density that's being proposed matches very closely with the density that is already in existence in the neighborhoods around it. So in that respect, it should fit in nicely. There are, you know, Harbortown actually is where I live.
Is it? Okay.
It is. So that's multifamily, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then most of the Bluffton neighborhood is single family, and this new development will have a mix of those two things. So again, a nice way to kind of blend things. As far as boat traffic, I'm not a boat traffic expert.
Right.
But the developers did hear a lot of concerns about boat traffic and using that same channel as already exists for the Harbortown Marina, I think.
Was
it's
there
called.
talk of another channel possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have seen the updated plans for the final planned unit development, and it does include a separate channel.
Okay.
So there won't be mixing of boat traffic. As far as car traffic, the city actually did require a traffic study. The developers did hire a consultant that did that. And we heard more concerns after that, you know, when they took the counts, it wasn't really the nicest weather. And it's true, it wasn't. And the city wants to make sure that we don't have traffic problems either.
Sure.
Which is why we required the study in the first place. So what we did is the city had an intern who had done some counts on a really busy day in July. I think it was July, it might have been August, but it was just a gorgeous day where we had tremendous beach traffic, and then it was, I think, the last movies on the beach.
Okay.
And so even the evening traffic was really heavy. So what we did is we gave that count information to the developers and said, use this and compare it to the counts that you did and see if you grew your numbers to that level, then study it with the incoming traffic from the development and see what you find. And so they have done that, and that's in the documents that they're providing for the Planning Commission and the City Commission.
And this is all to be discussed at a date still to come.
Correct.
So nothing's really set in stone yet about this project coming through or anything like that. I mean, it's looking kind of favorable, would you say?
I would say, though I thought it looked favorable before too.
Sure.
So that's my perspective, my viewpoint. The developer will be presenting a final planned unit development to the Planning Commission.
Okay,
So
and
that is going to be next week, Thursday.
Okay.
I think that's the 13th of June.
Something like that.
So they will deliberate. It will be a public hearing, so they will hear comments. And I guess to put a little bit of a plug in,
Sure.
They're actually relocating the meeting to the Beardsley Theater,
Okay.
assuming that there will be a fair amount of interest in making sure that we can accommodate people. So the Planning Commission will deliberate, and they will make a recommendation to the City Commission.
When it gets down to something this big, and I mean we're looking at some pretty unprecedented times in Muskegon for growth.
Right.
I've been here. I mean, I grew up in Sparta. I don't know if you know my whole story.
I don't.
But I grew up in Sparta, and when I was a kid, there was nothing in Grand Rapids. We came here for everything. You know,
Right.
Our concerts, our hockey. You know, I wasn't a real big hockey fan back then, but you know, none of that was going on in Grand Rapids. We came here for it, and like you said, things have kind of contracted for a while, and now we are on the expansion again. When you look at it from a city's perspective, a municipality's perspective, and you've got that kind of rapid growth happening all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
is it a difficult balance between the businesses and the people and the residents and the government and all that other kind of stuff? Does it makes you pull your hair out, right? Look what happens in Roosevelt
so far
Park.
I still have some.
I'm in Roosevelt Park and look what happens,
Yeah,
right?
Right. It is a difficult balance, and I think part of it is that, you know, part of it for sure is that it's all happening so quickly. Part of it, though, is that we have the land to expand, right?
Sure.
Because we had, especially downtown, we had this mall. It's gone. You know, it's now gone, and so we have all this vacant land, and so now that things are growing, it almost kind of snowballs. So people see that it's growing, and they see that these buildings can be successful, and so they want to come in and be a part of it.
Sure.
And so, it is difficult to balance, but part of it is that, you know, the general public doesn't study engineering, they don't study planning, and, you know, or economic development, and so they may not understand all of those principles. And, you know, it's our job to explain those things. It's our job to be cognizant of those things and make sure that we've got things in place so that when somebody comes to us and it's a terrible idea, that we have a way to either work with them to make it better or tell them to go back to the drawing board.
And get it down even into terms that John Q. Public can understand.
Right. And, I guess my hope is that, people have some level of trust in the city. We really have a great team, and we are constantly educating ourselves, and we are trying to stay on top of the latest and greatest on planning and economic development and engineering, so that we are making sure that we're protecting our city, because we, of course, only stand to benefit if our city moves in a positive direction.
Absolutely right.
So that's what we want for
That's what
the
you
whole
want.
city, but at the same time, we have to hear from what the citizens say, because maybe they are thinking of something that we haven't, and especially the people that have been here so long, they've seen maybe some of the growth and the decline over the years, and so they can provide some input on.
Yeah, there's a little fatigue
Right.
from all that
Right.
decline and all that rah.
Right, but
and-
maybe they've seen the big growth and
Yeah.
have seen some things that didn't go so well.
Right.
And they can say, well, when we went through this, so it's important to be able to hear those stories too.
Yeah, it is. It's very important, trust me. I know all about it.
Right.
Right?
Right. You're listening to all the stories.
Here I am in the middle of them.
Right.
I don't know how I end up there, but I do.
Right.
Maybe it's that camera.
Maybe.
it's the thing that puts me in the middle of all
Right.
of them. Any final thoughts? I mean, public's always invited to the meetings.
course.
It's the 13th, you say?
The 13th is the planning commission.
And that'll be down at the Beardsley
Beardsley,
Theater, so that's
right.
good. So get to that. Make sure you're there.
Right.
When somebody comes up to you in your position with the city government and things like that, and they've got that look in their eye, like, are you guys up to something or things like that? How do you address that? Because it's there. I mean, there's
is
doubt in
there,
government
right.
on every level at this point.
Right. All I can do is be the person that I am.
Yep.
I have faced trouble in my past,
Sure.
and so that's my message even to my kids.
All
you can do is be the person that you are.
Yeah.
And let that speak for itself.
Yeah.
So I know that our team has a high level of integrity, and I have learned from our commissioners that they do too. And so, certainly we want to hear comments, and if you have some concerns about things, tell us so that we are making sure that we're considering everything. But please have some level of trust in us, because we only want what's best for the city.
Because you're a part of it.
I'm a part of it. I live here. I grew up here. I was
Well,
born here.
Right. I was born close enough, right, Sparta?
Yeah.
Close enough.
Close. And you visited.
There you go.
Yeah.
The 13th, down at the Beardsley Theater. If you want to be a part of this discussion, if you want to hear the whole plan, if you want to hear both sides of the story, that's where you need to be. Leanne, thank you for taking a few minutes today to come down and talk. And there's people that when we do a story like this, there's people out there going, go out there and nail her, and I'm like,
Right.
do we need another accusational finger-pointing news source anywhere? I don't really think we do.
Not in my opinion.
I think people can sit down like grown-ups and discuss things and get to a rational thought, and especially here in Muskegon,
Right.
let's just talk to each other and work things through, because we're all in it together, period.
Absolutely.
So for you to take a couple of minutes to spend it today telling the side of the story of the city and the developers, it all circles back to that meeting on the 13th. Be there.
Yes.
Right,
Right.
perfect. Leanne Mikesell from the city of Muskegon. We'll put the links up here, and you get down to that meeting on the 13th, be heard. They're going to listen, and it's like I said, it's all about us together. Leanne, thanks again.
You're welcome.